right, Daniel, we're back. Botch Russian Podcast, episode 19. Almost a big 2-0. It's kind of crazy that we've kept with something this long. If you see all
This
the
long.
dust that's on my Peloton profile, you would see that I really can't do that. But that's a different complaint for a different day, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
big, big night in wrestling, would you say?
Mm-hmm. I would say.
So I was pre-booked. I had another function that they wanted me to job out at tonight, so I didn't get to see the press conference. But that's why there's two of us, because if one of us doesn't catch it, the other one usually does, and sends an ambiguous text at 1 a.m. Because that's what two heterosexual men should be doing to each other, right, Daniel?
Exactly.
Are you
I
up,
couldn't agree
Tex?
more.
Are you up, Tex? That's always fun. Or WYD. But since you saw it and I was pre-booked, let's talk about the press conference. And also,
E-pre-
you think we'll continue to see these type of press conferences for like the big pay-per-views now?
I think you see it for WrestleMania. I don't know if you'll see it for the others or not. Um,
Because if this was such a big like kick that I saw that it was on Twitter, like they could first of all, $2,000 a ticket I saw for like the basic ticket, and then 3,500 was the premium ticket.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a it wasn't technically a press conference, right? They really called it a kickoff event, but it
Yeah.
wasn't even set up like a press conference. Like they
No,
had a
right.
full stage. They had a full stage with full screens. Like this wasn't they didn't have a ramp and a ring, obviously, but they had like the top of the ramp, basically,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
all the screens behind them, and then, a crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and in the distance, a commentary booth that had a panel on it, like a pre show panel. And, so wrestlers came out to their themes and did some talks and cut some promos, and we got some interruptions and stuff. And then we got some commentary in between and before and after. So I mean, it was definitely I don't know how many people were there, but there was a lot of people. Seemingly,
So here you go. The gold package, $500 per person. Reserve seating, a post media event cocktail reception, appearances by Cody Rhodes, Rhea, and more. A dedicated arena entrance, a WWE credential, and lanyard. The champion package, 2,500 per person. Front row reserved seating, a photo op with Triple H, a signed Cody Rhodes American Nightmare weight belt, post media event contact cocktail reception. Apologies. Appearances by Cody Rhodes and Rhea and more. A post media event stage photo opportunity. So I'm guessing they're gonna let you come up on that stage and take a photo as they escort you off. A dedicated arena entrance, so they probably play a theme song for you. You think, Dan? Um, and then Daniel got a little bit of a green screen issue here, but he'll be back with us shortly.
can
Um,
you?
and then a WWE. There he is. And then
I don't know why that happens.
a WWE credential and lanyard for $2,500 a person.
Yeah, yeah, I could hear you the whole time. I don't know why this happens, but
That's kind of
anyway,
expensive for a kickoff event
that's. I
with
mean,
no
it was
wrestling.
only an hour. It was only an hour.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what I
A
could
little,
get for
a little over now.
$250 in an hour downtown? You know what I'm saying, Dan? Like the
Yeah.
different type of experience. It might hurt when I'm walking around the next day, but you know what I mean. Um, but yeah, that's crazy, right? I like and Busted Open was talking about this at the beginning of the week. They mentioned that it was 2,500. I was like, there is no way. So I looked it up and I'm like, Man, oh man, I gotta get my finances together. If I want to be a wrestling journalist when I grow up, you know what I'm saying, Dan? So pretty
Yeah,
crazy, pretty crazy,
I
right?
mean, you know what's weird though is that so like those were packages, but then right, I'm trying to open this up. Like T-Mobile Arena, I can't open the page anymore, but it says free fan and media event. So those must have been like upgrades you could buy, but I think you could get in for free if you didn't want any of that extra stuff.
I wondered if they had it like separated off. You know what I mean? So like the free people were like towards the back, and then this was just kind of like
Yeah,
a
I mean there were
section that
definitely
was
yeah, I mean there were definitely people in like 100 level seating or whatever it is in that arena, right? Like so there and then there were definitely people like right up against the stage too. Like it was all close. So yeah, I think like you could go for free if you didn't want any of that extra stuff, which is probably how they got so many people in there,
yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
least for the you know the 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 optics on it would be pretty good, but
yeah. So
wild. It's
yeah,
wild.
so back to the press conference, just based on the packages that I saw that were like offered, that's why I thought maybe they might do this for the big 4 or 5. You know what I mean? Like if they can really like stretch out the event basically, like the Friday before, have some type of like UFC type thing as now their own by Endeavor. I thought maybe they might be able to get away with that because let's be honest, WWE fans are going to show up at this, right? Like they're not going to
Right.
not show up if they have the opportunity. I mean,
Right. Especially if a majority of you can get in for free.
yeah, right. They're going to go, right? Like it's so yeah, so as I said, I didn't get to watch it, but we'll let you go on. So what's your take? What's your favorite parts of this?
I mean, I think I come away with it like I texted you this. I come away with this. It's like the last week and a half, 2 weeks has just been hectic in the wrestling community. Dirt sheets have been going crazy. I was looking back at some of the reports today. It's like the reporting on what was going on with Cody, The Rock, Roman, and Seth have been all over the place and have changed back and forth from multiple places. You know, certain companies saying two different things at times and changing their reporting. It's been all over the place. It's been, I mean, I've heard stories that this has been planned that it would be Rock and Roman since 2 or 3 weeks prior to the Rumble, and then some stories that were saying it was changed in the moment because Punk got hurt and he knew he wouldn't be able to go to WrestleMania or whatever. Like, and then that it changed after the Rumble too,
Right.
and it was hard to reconcile what those stories, which ones were really true, right? Like we were hearing Rock's asserting his power
Right.
and he's choosing this. We were hearing that this is all to build Cody differently and better. And this is Brian Gerwitz in the background, right? Like smiling ear to ear with the reaction they're getting. And then stories saying that they weren't expecting The Rock to get booed that much, like yada, all this stuff. And I come away from this, and I think I texted it to you, basically saying 2 weeks of chaos in the dirt sheets and the wrestling community just to be swerved and to be like 10 times more like invested in what the hell they're doing now, which I guess really just points to we really just need to sometimes let their shit play out,
Well,
right?
and that's what kind of what Bubba said on Busted Open this week, Monday or Tuesday. He said what they got, or no, I think it was on 83 weeks. They talked about it, and they said they got what 8 weeks and one pay per view before. Like
Right.
it could drastically change, right? Like, and that's all. Like everybody, that's all veterans of the business kept stating. Like, we understand why everybody's pissed. We would be pissed too. But they have 8 weeks and one pay per view. They have plenty enough time to show you what they're actually doing. This isn't like this is the Friday before Mania and then all of a sudden it's kicking off that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I will say the only thing that like I wonder is some of the like maybe the storytelling was a little clunky the way they did it. Just because they swerved really quickly back and forth, right? So I guess let me talk about what happened
Yeah.
and then we'll get into the discussion of it. So first half of it was women's matches, right? So um they brought out Bianca to start. Um they she did do a plug for the new show coming up with her and the husband, so maybe that's why they had her out there. So they plugged the new show coming up. Then they moved to Rhea did a promo, um, made mention of Nia Jax. Becky comes out, mentions that she's in Elimination Chamber and she's gonna win Elimination Chamber and go on to, you know, face Rhea at WrestleMania, or at least that's what they said.
Yeah.
And then of course she said that's if you get past Nia Jax in Elimination Chamber. Um, then they moved right into the men, and Seth came out first. Seth had a decent amount of time, a few 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe of time to just talk. And he went to bring out, I believe, Cody Rhodes. He announced for Cody Rhodes to come out and make his final decision, make it public. He did the same promo he's been doing about Cody should face him, yada yada yada. But instead of Cody coming out, Roman's music hit. Roman's comes out. Roman does the thing he's been doing that basically says, "You're the B team. You're the B championship. You know, this is the only championship that matters, and this is my WWE, and I choose the main event for WrestleMania." And basically said he chooses The Rock. So that's what Roman says. I was thinking that was when Cody was going to come out, but it wasn't. That's when The Rock came out. So The Rock came out, and it was very interesting with The Rock because he came out and he really played into letting the crowd do what they were doing. So they
Mm-hmm.
were booing, they were chanting "We want Cody," they were chanting "Rocky sucks." He was taking all like the very long
Mm-hmm.
pauses to let that grow. And he was starting to get through to through his promo, talking a little bit about the tribal chief, the head of the table, this is going to be the biggest main event in WrestleMania history, you know, all that good stuff. And then he says, so then all out of what I thought was seemingly out of nowhere, he comes up and he says, and I just want to take the opportunity to speak to the press that showed up and to all the fans in the WWE universe watching around. I want to introduce you to the Cody Crybabies. And the crowd just went nuts, right? Of booing and all that. And it, like, in that moment, full heel turn. 100% full heel turn.
He still got it.
He still got it. So, full heel turn, major heat. He shows a big, they have this great graphic of the bloodline that they put up on the screen, and he talks about how his grandfather and Roman's grandfather took a blood oath, and how the Samoan dynasty is the only and most dominant royal family in wrestling, right? So he's doing all that. And then he's not really cutting a promo on Roman, right? Like he's just kind of talking about the legacy of the Samoan families and going through, and then no music, but Cody interrupts from a microphone from backstage, no music, and then just walks out. And basically, he comes out and he does, a minute of just talking about him and Rock having had a conversation, him still needing to make his decision, and that it doesn't work the way Roman doesn't pick the main event. Roman doesn't pick the challenger. Cody gets to pick who he's going after. Um, and then he just makes his choice and he says, "That's it. I'm facing Roman. It's you and me, WrestleMania 40." And Roman goes nuts. Roman says, "You don't get to pick. I run this place. This is a done deal with me and The Rock. Like, this is for who to see who the tribal chief is." And he goes, "Your dad's a disappointment, or you're just as irrelevant as your dad is what he said." And Cody, gets a little mad, basically says, "You want to keep talking about family? We'll talk about family. If your grandfather and his grandfather, the high chief, was here right now, they'd be disgusted with you or disappointed in you, one of the two. And of course, that was like a mic drop moment. He drops the mic. Rock all of a sudden steps up and kind of says, "Hold on, let me get something. Let make sure you get this straight. You're talking about his family, means you're talking about my family. You're talking about his ancestors, you're talking about my ancestors. You're talking about his blood, you're talking about my blood. And nobody talks about my blood that way." And he smacks Cody right across the face. Triple H, by this time, Adam Pearce, Triple H, and Nick Aldis are out on the stage. They jump in between before anything happens. Seth also jumps in to kind of say, "You two are assholes." Like, you can hear Seth in the background, like, "This is bullshit. You don't run this place. You don't get to say what goes. Whatever." So now it's Seth and Cody, Roman and Rock, separated in the middle, and that's how it basically ends.
Well, that's kind of
They
what
go,
Seth said today at Super Bowl Row, right? He was doing the interview with somebody, and somebody asked him, "So, what's your thoughts on The Rock being there?" It was either today or yesterday, and he goes,
"Oh yeah, yeah, I did see this."
"Listen, we're happy to have him back, but if I'm speaking directly to The Rock, we don't need you anymore." So, like, that could possibly set up something down the line for Rock and Seth once he's fully healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Especially just hypothetically, say the Bloodline keeps that title, and then Rock goes and gets that title from Seth, and now they have both the WWE titles. That's the greatest
yeah.
Bloodline ever, right? That's the greatest dynasty ever. So I found that interesting. Yeah, so I mean, it pretty much went one of two ways we thought it could go, right? Like we said, like we definitely thought swerving some type of way. It was just unclear if it was going to be Rock back to being a bad guy, or if Rock is going to be the thing that gives Cody the extra confidence to go say, "Roman, I'm taking that belt off you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, question for you: do you have an issue if this ends up being a triple threat at WrestleMania? Because do you think this, if Cody is able to take the title, right? Does this diminish the way people feel about Cody finishing the story?
I think a triple threat diminishes it a little bit.
I think so too.
Um,
That's what.
I think, I mean, who knows? Like you just referenced, like there's a lot of time between
Yeah.
now and then. But I mean, the way it's shaping up today is that Rock is now in Roman's corner, right?
Well, that's what I
Rock
mean, right? Like that's
is aligned. So like it's hard to do a triple threat because, well, I mean, maybe it's not hard to do it, but like I just don't see it as much. Like I think it does diminish it a little bit. What I think you're going to see now is several weeks of The Rock pumping up Roman and, um, on the heel side, getting him some more heat and helping at least, and making Cody a bigger baby face. And then what I would assume is that then Cody wins and then it becomes Rock Roman, and Rock says, like, "You couldn't maintain the title. Like, you couldn't keep your title. Now you don't deserve to be the head of the table for sure, and we're gonna figure that out," or something. I don't know. That's what
so.
I'm
That's what I was
assuming.
thinking too. I was thinking that as well as like a possible thing from what I saw on Twitter tonight. My other thing is like, what if this turns out to be, so they already technically swerved everybody once, right? What if this is The Rock playing the long game, and say it comes down to the point where the Bloodline has to pick between helping Reigns or helping Rock, and Rock convinces the Bloodline to put Reigns out there on his own. Cody beats Reigns for the 1, 2, 3. Cody walks out the champion. Now that basically sets up the fact of Cody having to defend that belt against the true tribal chief, right?
Right.
But then that's the thing too. Do you feel like this lost some buzz when we were talking about that it wouldn't be bad for them to have a tribal combat match between Reigns and Rock? Because now it's kind of like you're doing from the way it looks right now at 8:50 on February 8th is that it's all three of them, and it kind of looks like they're just doing everything at once right now.
It really looks like it's four of them, though. Actually, like because Seth
So
got
right,
very involved.
well,
So
and with the backstage incident that you were talking about prior to the podcast.
right, right. Now, and also Michael Cole and Pat McAfee made a point to mention that Rock's on the board. Maybe he has power to overturn this. So, like, they left a lot of doors
Yeah.
open. But they also ended the show with the graphic being the WrestleMania logo and Roman and Cody. So, I don't know. Like, they definitely are aligning Rock and Reigns for now and aligning Cody and Seth. My guess would be, too, is Seth's just going to face the winner of Elimination Chamber. That's the easiest thing for them to do.
So who do you put in there? Who would you put in there? And I will see if I differ at all.
Well, you're not going to put Cody anymore. You're not going to put The Rock. You're not going to put Roman. So you're going to probably put Drew.
Yeah, it has to be Drew, right? That has to be the
right.
number one choice.
You're going to put Drew. You're going to put maybe Gunther. Maybe. A little weird with him having the title, but...
Yeah, but isn't he supposed to have a match with is it Jay or Jimmy? I always get them confused.
Oh, Jay. Actually, I think you're right.
I'm a terrible person. I always confuse them. I
mean, they are twins, so.
Not really. You can tell the difference. Years of
I mean, you can now,
CTE.
You used to not be able to.
Okay, so do you continue the breakup of the Judgment Day by putting in Finn and Damien? Because I thought about this today prior to the press conference.
You could, or Dom in one of them, because allegedly, right, they were going to go Dom and Brock. So
yes, that's true.
They need to put Dom in somewhere, so maybe they throw the three of them in there. That could get interesting if they put all three of them in there.
Do you throw Braun in there?
You probably throw, because they've definitely made it seem like he's up for good.
Oh yeah, because he just signed the contract on Raw.
Right. So I thought they had made mention he had some unfinished business in NXT, but maybe he just makes a couple sporadic appearances. But yeah, so maybe Braun. So now we've got, if you put all of the Judgment Day, Drew and Braun, that's 5. You need one more. I don't know who they put.
Montez?
Maybe, but I don't
think he deserves the shot.
I don't think so, because of like his story now is him and them and Bobby Lashley. So I don't know, maybe you throw Lashley in there, maybe throw the Miz in there. Like your 6th guy is probably just a throw in. You really want to get going, you put R-Truth in there just for the fun of it.
That'd be hysterical, right? That would be
right. Like, I mean, they've been doing all this stuff with him. Why not throw him in there? Just for the comedy side of it and to screw something up for the Judgment Day. I mean, after that, I don't know who you're really putting in there.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like, it's the one guy that I kind of wanted them to throw in as a wild card seems to be back down in NXT right now, so that's not going to happen. Yeah, it's tough, man. it's tough. It's like, I mean, obviously McIntyre has to be the first choice, right? Like, there's like, especially the way that he's been punking on Punk. No pun intended there, but like the way he
I have a
says,
I have a crazy Punk theory too.
oh, okay, hang on. Let's let's get.
It's because of this press conference, by the way.
Please tell me you're not one that doesn't think he's not injured.
I don't think he's as injured as they made it sound. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so when he called that ref over,
I mean, we don't know what he said. I mean,
there's a couple clips from people sitting ringside. Do your research, Dan.
I did do my research.
So,
Trust me, you can't tell 100% that he's telling the ref he's hurt and that they're changing the ending.
all right,
That
well,
is just that's just conjecture.
now
Nobody knows that for sure.
he Dan doesn't read a book at all, but he uses words like conjecture. Bravo, Dan. Um, so one of the predictions for the elimination chamber, if this is true, this might drastically change who we think is going to be in there. So there's supposedly going to be a tag team champion match between Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates versus the Judgment Day. So if that's true, that's two guys out of there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Unless Damien uses the opportunity to cash in at the end of it, but that's still not him being in there. You know what I'm saying?
No, and he's not. But he's not really cashing in. You only cash in when the champion's wrestling, so like that's not really working.
Do you think?
The cash in is for a championship match. So
Yeah. So to tie this back to the press conference, do you think we see Rock Cody at the elimination chamber since Australia has specifically requested him?
I think it's possible. I mean, they're setting something up. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a tag match. Like they're again, without knowing what Rollins can or can't do. Maybe it's a Rock Cody, Roman in one corner, Seth in the other. Maybe it's a tag match if Seth can go.
Or or so hear be out on this. Rock's out there, Roman's out there, Cody hits, he's out there, Seth walks out there, they tell Seth he can't go. All of a sudden, you hear the music from the Viper, and Randy Orton's out there as his partner.
Yeah, they could do something like that. They also, because this was another thing that the post-show panel hinted out there just because they said it. I don't know if it was Big E or Pat McAfee. I think it was Big E who said something along the lines of, what if we see Cody take on, or if we see both matches at WrestleMania?
Yeah, well, we've
So,
talked about that too as well.
right,
Yep.
right. So whether it's Cody and Seth one night and Rock and I mean, sorry, Cody and Roman night one and Rock and Roman night two. Um, you know, is that possibility out there? And then I thought too, what if Cody entered the Elimination Chamber and wanted to challenge for both titles both nights? Like, like, which would be a little weird, but like these guys are doing whatever the hell they want right now. So, because maybe you just, I don't even know what you're doing in that if you do that, but I mean, I guess it's possible another round and then Cody, because if it was true they were thinking about unifying the titles, why not do it at WrestleMania? Like, what would be bigger than Cody winning one championship night one and a second championship night two?
Well, and they always like to do a big show afterwards of like them like actually showing the belt. So what Raw is bigger than the Raw that's after WrestleMania?
The Raw after WrestleMania. If they're truly trying to get rid of that belt, which I don't know if they really are or not. I mean, but maybe. Maybe they are looking to just have one champion going forward, and moving people through shows better, you know. Um, I don't know. A lot of options for sure. A lot of options.
It's crazy that we're already here. You know what I mean? Like, it is crazy. We're like 2 months away from this happening. And then we start all over again.
Yeah, but start all over again and also still have some like leftovers for SummerSlam.
A huge amount of leftovers.
Right. So that's also like a thing. Like, where is SummerSlam 2024?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I guess what's tonight? Tonight's Thursday night. What do you think we see on SmackDown? Do you think this ties into SmackDown at all, or you think it goes straight to Raw on Monday?
Well, SmackDown is Roman's show technically, right? Like, I
Yeah.
know he bounces around, but his home show, I believe, is SmackDown. I'm sure we see something. Now, I don't know if you see The Rock or not, but
Because the pay per
I'm
view's not
sure,
till the 24th, right?
right. But I'm sure you see some promos, and then, maybe some trading promos, or maybe Cody shows up to SmackDown too. I mean, it's not like he won't,
No, he travels.
travel around and do everything. So
He's a
that
company
was
guy.
a shot that Seth took at Roman during the press conference to say something like, "Hey, thanks for showing up to work today."
Yeah, why wouldn't you, right? I would be taking that shot every time I got. Like,
Yep.
why not?
Yep. He
Until
said,
until it's not true, it's still a fresh shot to take. It doesn't get old because he's never there.
"Have they not announced the location for SummerSlam? Why am I like missing it?"
Yeah, it hasn't been announced yet.
Don't they normally announce it much further on?
Supposedly, the rumor on Fightful from WrestleZone is Cleveland, Ohio is in the running to host SummerSlam.
Interesting, since they were just in Detroit last year. It's pretty close.
Hitting the Rust Belt.
Surprised.
Hitting, come to Buffalo. It's the same city, basically. Am I right?
Yeah. See if you could do it at the Ralph. Why not?
Yeah.
Seats enough people.
Dan, it's called New Era Field. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean,
It's New Era Field at Ralph Wilson Stadium.
no one calls it that, and if they do, they should be thrown from the top.
Or I'm sorry, Highmark Stadium. New Era Field at Highmark Stadium.
Thanks, Grandpa. So I mean, they got everything they wanted out of this, right? It was a big pop from everybody. Everybody's there that they wanted there. Crowds there. People actually paid for this to go. Rock,
someday,
Cody, Reigns. It all happened.
Right.
Got the buzz going. So, question for you. Was this only on YouTube or was this on Peacock?
It was on Peacock, and I think they said you could see it on Twitter too, which also they announced a new show, technically, not really a show, but a new platform. They're going to start streaming matches on Twitter/X. Matches, it's called WWE Speed, and it is going to be matches that are, I think, no longer than 5 minutes, but they'll be on WWE's X account.
Great. So for anyone that doesn't have ADHD, will now have it. 2 questions for you. You think the ratings for this beats out the ratings from Wednesday night of AEW? And do you think the ratings from this beats out the rating viewership for the Tucker Carlson and Putin interview going on Twitter right now? Thoughts, Dan?
So
You like to take
yes,
this political?
yes on Dynamite. I don't know about the Putin thing. Um,
Well, he's talking
I
to
think
Tucker.
I know he is. I think a lot of people will watch that because they're gonna want to see what he says. Like the curiosity factor alone will be the reason people will watch it.
Are we talking
Um,
about Tucker or AEW? Because last time I
oh,
checked, AEW
Tucker.
has no curiosity factor to it right now.
Yes, that's what. Sorry, I thought that was
Okay.
inferred.
No,
Tucker.
I'm just trying to clarify here. So one day maybe I can interview Putin. Not a big deal.
I mean, if you want to travel to Russia, good luck.
Dan, I look like one of them. I look like a Viking
Well,
right here. Look at this.
still,
It's fine.
your passport says you're American. That's all
Dan,
we
we're
care
not
about.
here to talk about United States chemical labs that were over in the Ukraine, okay? Leave that conspiracy theory for a different day, bud. But anyways, um, ever since you got the vaccine, how you feeling? I'm just kidding. That's just
I feel.
rough spot right there. But yeah, so you said you had a whoa easy, don't need your heart to
oh,
explode in
oh,
your chest.
not that vaccine.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Not the TRT you've been taking. Um, what's your theory on Punk? You said you had.
All I'm gonna say is
Here we
that
go.
for a guy that just tore his triceps and has this big ass brace on his
Yeah.
arm, he hit that arm on the desk multiple times when he kept saying because he was great, by the way. Like his commentary, like that role for him while he's injured is perfect to keep him going because he was like I don't know. He goes, Seth Rollins needs to take his balls out of his purse and slap somebody in the face. Like he keeps getting disrespected and he's not doing anything about it. And as he's saying it, he's just banging his arm on the table. And it's the bad arm. And I'm like, and this dude doesn't take painkillers, right? Like
No, he
he's
can't. He's
like
straight edge.
he's like 3 days out of surgery, right? Like
Is
he,
it is it still in the brace? Like,
yes.
so the thing with that brace is now I had a baseball injury to the elbow, and I had to wear a brace like that. With your arm being mobilized like that for so long, you really don't feel anything because it's just stuck like this.
I just would think just the general like
Yeah.
movement
Oh, agreed.
against something
Especially with it
would
being
because if nothing else, he has an incision
yes,
somewhere.
yes,
Maybe,
yes,
maybe
yes,
a
yes,
small
yes,
one, but still an incision.
yes. Agreed. 100%. I can definitely see that possibly being something. Yeah, it's tough, right? Like
It
it's
also said they also said online like somebody shared a his doctor or like his like physiotherapist shared a post and said elbow called it elbow surgery.
Tommy John.
But I thought it was different from Tommy John. I didn't think he had Tommy John.
No, but he tore his tricep, right? So yeah, it's probably just reattaching this part here back up here, and he probably didn't really do anything to the
Yeah.
ligaments
No,
in
I know.
here.
That's why I thought it was a little weird to call it an
Yeah,
elbow injury.
it can be. I would agree. It's
Especially for a physiotherapist who's treating the injury, right?
it's not
So,
Dr. Andrews, right?
no, it's a guy named Kevin Wilk.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I mean, the brace does make it look like it's more because the brace connects here
Yeah,
and here.
yeah. So he
So
can't
it
do
does make
this.
it
Yeah.
seem right. Like, and then it's strapped up to his neck. But
Yep.
tonight he didn't have the strap, but he just kept banging it. And I was like, dude, that's gotta hurt. Like, I don't know. I'm
Well,
just saying it was
let's
very
be
odd to
real.
see
Like
him like slapping the table so much.
he is somewhat of a crazy person too. So
That's true. That's true.
like him and Chris Hero.
You would just think you would use your other arm. You
Yeah,
know,
and
your good
you
arm.
when you're on D&Ds, you think you wouldn't put Chris Hero through a barn wall and be able to walk away from that either. And that happened. They pulled the roof down from the barn. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? Because things like we think would affect us, like to be any type of professional athlete, you sometimes got to be a little bit crazy, right? Like you
So,
really,
so so Triple H also tweeted out 45 minutes ago, decision made. Cody Rhodes gets the chance to finish his story when he challenges Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 40.
so that's that.
So, yeah, that's that for sure.
I guess, like, yeah, it's something, man, right? Like it is something. So
It's going to be interesting for sure. They're gonna they're gonna ride this for sure now.
yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Like it's the perfect timing. They got everything they wanted out of this press conference. Um, I mean, you know what I mean? It's not um it's not like it was a blunder, right? But like
Right.
at the same time, if if WWE keeps pulling these press conferences off, is this just another thing that AEW can't do? Like, is this just another tool that WWE has to bury them?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe. Now a little bit of drama is circulating because apparently like no press was given any additional access, and I guess there was a thought they might tonight, almost like a real press conference after
Yeah,
the event. But I guess that didn't happen or is not happening. Um,
I don't think you need it. Like, not much was gonna change. Like I don't think you can drastically change anything if you give them additional, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't like. Well, what does that do? Just to have them talk about what just happened on the stage, even though you were sitting right there to see what happened on the stage?
yeah, but I mean, like actually ask questions, and stuff like that. It just it seemed to some of these guys seemed to think that was going to happen, and then they didn't.
I
So
mean, sure,
I
I
don't know what
guess,
gave them the idea that was happening, but it seems like they thought that. So
sure. I mean, if what was that Ariel Hawani crying about it? Like,
no, no, not Ariel Helwani. Um, well, John Alba just clarified and said the WWE email to media said interviews with talents were expected, but not guaranteed.
yeah, there you go. So what if the backstage thing between Rock and Hunter wasn't something that was really planned? Hunter and Rock ran with it, and then they said, "Screw it, we're just not going to do any additional interviews because that was the only thing that they needed." Then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, like, but once again, that's kind of like what we've been trying to tell people that, like, when we've been talking to them about this, is like, just let it play out. There's plenty of time for it to play out. Like, it's not like they're not going to have an opportunity to get these interviews in. Like, if there's anything that comes close to the interviews that occur during Super Bowl week, it's all the interviews that occur the week of WrestleMania because they're all down there, they're all walking around, they're all going to be on some podcast. Do you know what I mean? Like they're all going to be all over the place.
Yep.
So it's kind of like I don't know. It's just tough, man. It's like that's the one thing that I don't care for. Like I would rather have them like pop up on podcasts for like with actual wrestling people that can ask them like real wrestling questions than just kind of like feeding off of like what happened already. You know what I'm saying? Like, have The Rock hop on Sam Roberts' podcast. Like, have that happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah, that's just it's wild, man. It's
Yeah.
wild. So what else do you want to talk about? What else did you have on your mind? You said you had
I
some
mean,
questions for me. You
yeah, but
said
now it's all moot now because it's all related to where we were going. And I mean, I guess I could still ask some of them, but now it's a little bit changed. Oh, well, I guess there's a couple that still apply. One of the questions I have for you, based on the last couple of weeks alone, and it happened again tonight, so it's still a relevant question. Why are they shitting on Seth Rollins' title so much?
yeah, I thought about that too, right?
And not only that, but Seth isn't like feverishly fighting back at that. He
No,
is a little, and also, and this is still relevant too. Was it odd to you, or did you have a little bit of an issue with the fact that Seth was chasing Cody, the champion was chasing the challenger, and not the other way around?
no,
I thought it was
no.
weird
It's
because again, when
okay.
you
So
add it with the fact that they're like diminishing his belt a little bit and shitting on his belt, and then on top of that, he's trying to convince a guy to come fight him, like I understand it's the angle of like I've lost to you, I need to know I can beat you, but it's just weird that you have the
so
champion so hard chasing the challenger.
so there's two things there, right? I don't have an issue with it. Is it weird from what we saw in the past? Sure. But I think it's also weird that we've seen a champion with this bad of an injury, plus his back being completely shot, so he's going to have to take off some time for the foreseeable future. They said he's been told by doctors every time he's gone into a WWE doctor's, you really got to find the time to take time off. That's the only thing that's going to heal your back. So I don't think we've had a champion this banged up and that still held this title for this long. I think that's a key factor in what's going on with Seth. Because I think Seth was going to be the 1A attraction at WrestleMania based on what he could do in the ring if he was completely healthy. I truly believe that. Because Triple H loves Seth. And if Triple H can have Seth and Roman and Cody and Punk all go off in the same night or the same two nights, we said this. It's pretty much end of the road for AEW, right? Like it's pretty much nail in the coffin. So it's kind of like, yes, it's weird. Do I have an issue with it? No, because the storyline that Seth and Cody were able to tell, especially in that final Hell in the Cell, when Cody came out and he dropped the robe and you saw how badly injured he was. There's no difference of that when Cody's trying to fight through that terrible injury to Seth having all of the injuries that we known for what? They said Seth had a broken back for what, the last 2 years? On and off for the last 2 years, they said? Because they thought it was healed, but then he re-injured it again, so I would say it's a little weird based on the history of wrestling that we have. But then again, I mean, like we discussed on episode 18, like, this is a new era. Like, we're going to Netflix now. Like, and they might change the rating back for more adult content. And you have Brian Jarowitz that's back involved with The Rock. And supposedly he's staying around past when The Rock has to go back to Hollywood. So if Brian's staying around because The Rock's now on the board, I mean, let's be real. The best storylines we've seen in the last 10, 20 years, 75% of them involve Brian writing them.
Yep.
Especially the ones that involved Vince that everybody's questioning now. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I feel like Vince wrote some of those on his own.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's on his casting couch, but that's a different type of episode we'll talk about. But Yeah, so it's a little weird. I mean, I was trying to explain it to my wife as she was trying to fall asleep, and she told me to shut up. That's the norm. Um,
That's an expected outcome in that situation.
but then again, since I told you Big J started watching again, he had a whole bunch of questions he texted me. Like, why is that belt so ugly? What is this belt? Why are there 12 belts? They're like, there's not 12 belts. There's 2 belts. Like, I had to
He's
like,
on my he's on my
well,
side.
you're both in the same age bracket, so it makes sense. Hey, it's a kid friendly show. Um, it hasn't been since episode 3.
Now, when you brought up Tucker Carlson, that ain't kid friendly.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a change to the storyline, but like, I think it's a change in wrestling that I don't think causes problems, just based on the history that those two had. I think if it was anybody else holding that belt, like if you're telling me Damian Priest cashed in, took that belt from Seth and Damian was now chasing Cody to say, hey, this is the belt you want, then yeah, that's weird. He just cashed in. What is he doing? He should be protecting the belt. But like with the history that them two have, I think you can get away with it. Um, but yeah, I mean it's a change, right? But I think we're gonna see a lot of changes over the next
It
eight,
just
8 weeks, 12 weeks
yeah,
going
it just
forward.
bothered me. I think it bothered me more with how much they were just like crapping on
So
the belt in general.
I was thinking about this today. Remember the last time that they consolidated belts? There was like a lot of
Yeah.
comments going on then too of like, oh, that's the B title, that's the C title.
Well, I was
The
one of
true,
them. I
yeah,
mean,
the
I've
true
been
guy
calling
doesn't carry that title. So
right.
I think that's more of like a precursor that Hunter's like, hey, we're gonna get to one belt. Like,
Yeah, I mean, because like I said it from day one. It was the consolation belt,
so
right? Because Roman eventually, Roman carried two forever, and then he was going part time, and then they gave him the mustard gold belt, and then they just randomly unveiled this new belt, and it just felt like, yep, that's the consolation prize because you need to have a weekly champion, right?
yeah.
But now they're playing into that in story, like.
Well, and so I was thinking about this too when you brought it up last week. Remember about what was it? A year and a half ago, when the complaints from USA leaked about Roman continuously having the belt on SmackDown, that they wanted a belt. So them going to Netflix, I know it's in the future, but it kind of, they don't got to worry about that anymore, right? They don't got to worry about like external complaints anymore, because who's good? Like, yeah, USA will definitely get the title holder, but if Netflix is paying you $5 billion, I think you're gonna put the big title on there as much as possible, right? Like, that's where the title has to be for $5 billion. Like, so, but yeah, I think it's more of just deliberately setting up the precursor of this belt's gonna be gone. But do you think they go back to just having the undisputed title, or you think there's a brand new belt? Does Cody bring back the Wing Eagle?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's enough people that would appreciate that they would do that, you know?
Yeah.
Um, there might not be, right? There just might not be enough that would understand that and understand why he would do that,
Yeah, agreed. I
you
think it
know?
would depend on the presentation, and I think it would depend if The Rock's still around. Because I think you could go back and use like The Rock's history with WWE history, and then obviously Cody's family history, and tie it back to those times. If you're bringing on a belt, rather just bringing out a belt, pulling the carpet off of it, and going, "Here's our big ugly belt this year," and then everybody running to the stores and buying it like they always do, right? Like,
Right.
um, Yeah. So, did you have any other questions or anything else you wanted to talk about on that press conference or anything on The Rock?
Nothing necessarily on The Rock now. I mean, semi-related to the press conference, we were talking about it offline. What in the hell are they doing with Bailey?
Yeah, it's strange, right? That she's not there.
She's not there. She's not in the promotional material. She's like nowhere to be seen. And I don't know if they're doing that on purpose because she's also playing into it a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
CM Punk, he posted on his Instagram story something where he like superimposed her head onto the graphic, like for the hell of it. Like,
Well, and they've
so
been hanging out backstage a lot when he's been around. He said that's the only friend I have back there. He said that a couple times.
right. So I mean, I don't know if this is part of a deal here, um, or what, but I just think it's weird. Like you have Rhea, you don't have Io Sky, and you don't have Bailey, you have Bianca, and then you had Becky show up. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's strange, right? It doesn't make sense at all. It does not
No.
make sense at all. Um, yeah, I mean, I was afraid of this. Do you think they put her on first?
Uh, it's possible.
I think that's gonna be a banger, though. I've been telling you for weeks. Like, if Bailey gets that shot with
Well,
Io,
what do
I
they always say? They always say if you're not last, you want to be first. So
that's
it
true.
might not be a bad thing if they do.
No, but I've been telling you, haven't I? Like that could be like an underrated top three, top two, like just them going at it. Um,
Oh, 100%. I agree.
what are your thoughts on Becky and Rhea?
Um, I mean, I think that'll be a good match when it happens. I mean, they're obviously setting that up, or trying to set that up. Um, so, I think it could be a good match. I don't know who's going to win in that. I think you could go either way. So, with that, you certainly could go either way with that story on who wins.
Yeah, it's
Get
tough,
a
right?
couple
Like
get a couple matches out of that.
it is tough. Like it is tough of like what they're gonna do, right? Like it doesn't make sense. Um, I think it can be good. Um, I just hope they tell it right. Because on paper, when I see that, I'm kind of like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Um, if Rhea drops the title, do you see her going away for a bit so that they can build Jade and Bianca, or do you think Jade and Bianca become a tag team? I was really thinking about that Jade and Bianca become a tag team.
Mm. Yeah, that could be really interesting. I hadn't thought about that possibility.
And then they
I
join
think
MVP at the faction.
maybe
Do you know what I mean? Like just
they could, well, join with they really could just join with Bobby Lashley and
oh, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah. What?
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um yeah,
You know
that
what I
could
mean?
be. That could be.
But then also, who do you book them against? Because they should steamroll everybody.
Well, right, that'll be the thing. They would have to for a while
Yeah,
steamroll until you find a team that,
is
you develop a team that can
I mean,
put
Quintana
up for
and
that.
Jade Carter, maybe, or Caden Carter, maybe eventually, if they keep building. But they have to
Yeah,
build well for that to be true. You know what I'm saying?
right.
There was one thing I wanted to catch up with you on. Did you watch NXT this past Tuesday?
I did not.
Did you see anything from it?
I saw some highlights, but I didn't watch it.
Did you see what they had to do with the crowd with Carmelo Hayes by chance? No? So he came out as the heel, right? Because he's
Yeah.
the secret attacker to his best friend Trick, right? Supposedly the FU Mellow chants, and there were so many middle fingers prior to Carmelo starting his promo. They had to get on the loudspeaker in that arena and tell fans if it continued at this level, they were going to have to cut the cameras from live air. And it wouldn't be a live show anymore. That's how bad it got.
Wow.
That is how bad it got at NXT. Granted, yes, it is a very small, like, round arena. But that's an ECW type moment there. Like, that's some crazy stuff that they would almost have to cut from live air because Carmelo has everybody that fired up. And I've been preaching to you about him for a while now. And just the fact he comes out there and does this and pulls it off so easily. He's easily the next top face of the company for the next 15 years. Easily. Like this is like this, and it's perfect because this could actually travel to main event too, like the whole Trick and Carmelo feud. And then Carmelo, I believe, attacked Dragunov after that match. But yeah, it's wild, man, because it's like it shows you how many people were strongly behind him, like being the next big guy to pop up there, right? Like being the next. Excuse me. So.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's so good for just the future in general, right?
Right.
Like these guys are just gonna.
Right. Right. And then, if you saw anything on Twitter from him, he said, "You thought I was done. I'm just in my villain era." And then all the people just attacking him all night after that promo. It's by far the longest thread I've ever seen. It's just nonstop of people just jumping down his throat. So yeah, it's crazy. It's gonna be something. It's. I was truly hoping for him to stay up for good. I think with the whole issue with Brock being gone, I think that's why Braun stays up there because he's now their Brock. He's their freak of nature now that can go do the same stuff that Brock does, but he does it a little bit smoother and it's more athletic. So I think that's why Braun's up there now. But it'll be interesting because I don't know. Do you just keep Carmelo down there? Do you just keep him down there to help tutor the rest of the crew? Like, is that why he's there? To help telling the storyline with Trick, to help telling the storyline with Dragunov? Like, because it was Trick and Carmelo and Braun that when Punk came to NXT, like, they were working with Punk nonstop, as we saw. So it's kind of like, are these guys now passing the torch to those that are coming up in NXT? You know what I mean?
Right.
But then it's weird is that you don't do the same thing with Tiffany Stratton. You just have her come up immediately, I guess. So I don't know. There would be a couple questions that I have for WWE creative at the time, aka Brian Jarowitz, possibly. Um, so yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. But yeah,
Yeah, it's a wild time. We keep saying it. It's a wild time to be a wrestling fan, but it's
and just imagine if we still had Bray Wyatt.
yeah.
That'd be insane. Like at it, like Punk and Bray. Um. So, side note, did you see the story about the Undertaker being in Saudi Arabia to present a trophy?
Wait, say that again?
The Undertaker was paid
Oh,
to go to Saudi Arabia to present a soccer trophy. I just sent you it. The Undertaker was part of the Riyadh Season Cup final, presenting the trophy ahead of a match between El Cesar, which I believe is Cristiano Ronaldo's team, and Al Hilal. The Undertaker came out with full entrance and full gear.
brought back the gear he wasn't going to bring back.
It's fine. There was a lot of zeros over there.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem.
That kind of pisses me off. He took blood money to go do that. So now that you got all your questions out, there is another question that I have for you.
Okay.
Oh, easy. Watch the tone, bud, before you take a steel chair there, Uncle Dan. Naomi, back to TNA. How long do you think we see this Jordan Grace and Naomi partnership going on? And since she's back over there working with Jordan, I know Jordan said one last time on Twitter, but do you think it bounces back to where she comes back to help Naomi out in the WWE for a bit? To continue this like crossover door? Or as some would say, Dan, to continue opening up this forbidden door?
No, that's a silly door.
Yeah, it's a stupid door. Yeah.
Um, I assume, I could be wrong, but I assume this was a 1-for-1 trade between the companies. Look, let us get Jordan Grace in the Rumble. We'll let Trinity, Naomi, we'll let her come do something with you guys, even though she's signed with us again. Unless it was just a one-off deal with WWE, but I didn't think it was.
I mean, I was pushing from this from when we saw her get a downs. I would love Jordan in WWE. I would love it. I would absolutely love it because I believe Jordan versus Rhea, is that not a main event match in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it would be.
Because we haven't had anybody that could be physical with Rhea, right? She legitimately pounds her opponents. Like, that's what she's known for. Her strength, her power, it's just double what anybody else in that division actually has. So now you bring over, what does Jordan call herself? The Wrecking Ball? You bring her over.
So.
It's believable from the moment she steps through the door. Like, it kind of writes itself, right? It's kind of too easy.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I found that very interesting when I saw it on Twitter that she was talking about that, and I believe she said one last ride or one last time or something like that, just to talk about it. But yeah, I mean it's great, right? Like that kind of adds to your prior point of like, is this the best time in wrestling that we've had since we were kids?
It's close to it.
Because we had to grow up with a lot of bad crap. Like, we had to get through a lot of bad crap.
We did get through a lot of bad crap, but when we were little, we liked it. Like, looking back, it was crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
But
that's a
like,
good way to look at it.
right, because like, I mean, I think back to like prior to the Monday Night Wars, which was like right the golden age of wrestling now. You did have some pretty cool stuff like with Hogan and Macho Man for years, like going back and forth. And then
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I forget how old I was. I could look it up, but like, I'll never forget Macho Man being bit by a snake in the middle of the ring,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
I'll never forget Undertaker locking Ultimate Warrior in a casket
Yep.
and then like sealing it, and then remember like when they opened it up and it looked like was trying to claw through it. And um you'll never forget Shawn Michaels blasting Jannetty through the barbershop window, right? Like, there's just so many things that I think of that were sprinkled into, yes, some really goofy and gimmicky crap, like the Repo Man, you know, or the Brooklyn Brawler, right? Like, and stuff like that. But like, I'll never forget those moments that were sprinkled in it. Um, or like Jake the Snake's training of the Ultimate Warrior, or um, Hogan Warrior, right? Hogan Warrior was that WrestleMania 6, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Hogan Warrior title for title, right? Like,
Was that not? Is that WrestleMania 6?
6, like that's another one. Like, as a kid, I wasn't sure who I wanted to win that match, right? Like,
Well, because you had the
all
best of
that,
both worlds, right? Like,
right. And so like all that kind of stuff, like you just was sprinkled into some really weird crap. But um,
well, and then you
you know,
had Hulk versus Warrior 2, which WrestleCap calls it the worst of WCW.
I mean, that was pretty bad. But that was during the Monday Night Wars in
Yeah,
theory,
yeah, no, but
so
yeah, it's just funny how.
towards the tail end. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and even like, even though looking back on it now, it was real gimmicky, but Hulk versus Zeus and the movie No Holds Barred, like all like when the movie and the wrestling crossed over and Zeus became a wrestler after being a movie character, that was kind of cool too, right? Like, and Zeus was like crazy looking, right?
yeah,
Like, he
yeah,
just
yeah,
looked like I mean, he was like maybe not the first one I can think of, but he was among the first ones I can remember thinking like, that man is made of steel, right? Like,
yeah. He's chiseled as
the
a
way
statue. Yeah,
right, the way he was presented in the ring, like, holy crap. And then you think too, like, kind of cool, like Lex Luger when he came back as the American, the big American Lex Express, and he slams Yokozuna.
yeah,
And a lot of good stuff that happened during a relatively goofy period of wrestling.
yeah. Well, just like Stone Cold driving the beer truck out or the truck out, spraying everybody. Like, that's like something you
Yeah,
definitely
see,
talked about the next day at school. Like, did you
I
see what
think the
Steve Austin
difference
did?
was,
Like,
yeah, I think what the difference was when we were kids, younger kids, we had like big moments sprinkled in, and then wrestling got goofy, and then right before the Monday Night Wars, then we started getting it every week.
yeah,
It wasn't sprinkled in. It was
no,
like
it was
every
every
week
week. Yeah,
was just like the best you had seen until the next week, and then it was better and better and better and better, right? Because like a lot of people, especially my age, you kind of fell off of wrestling somewhere in late middle high school, where it was like you might watch it occasionally, but it wasn't keeping you engaged. And then all of a sudden in middle school you probably lost it a little bit. And then like in high school into college it was like, whoa, like, wow, this is good. Mostly high school, so for me at least. But um, yeah, yeah, this
yeah.
is definitely the next closest to the Monday Night Wars era for sure.
Oh, agreed, agreed.
And it's really just getting going.
Yeah, and I don't think we can really say like anything will ever top that because that's what we grew up with, right? So there's always going to be a spot in our brain of like, this was the best ever because this is what we grew up with. This is what we waited to watch every night after school. Like, this is what we talked about with all of our friends. Like, for those that had friends,
Right.
not a private school.
This is what
but like
this is what we spend Monday nights.
Yeah,
Channel flipping.
flipping through trying to like replay everything on PlayStation with WWC or WCW Thunder, like trying to plan it all out, right? Like that's it's crazy, man. It's crazy WWE being so global the way it is now. It can get even bigger. Like with what they're happening and then Netflix deal. And I didn't even think it could get bigger. Like this is gonna be insane. So but yeah, was there anything else WWE related that you wanted to touch on, wanted to talk on? Any questions, anything?
I don't think so.
Should we talk about that Spot Fest promotion that you watch on Wednesdays and Saturday nights when you bedazzle your boots with tutus?
So I haven't watched it in quite some time.
I haven't watched it since we returned from, or when prior to us going to Hawaii. That's the last time I watched it. The week before Hawaii.
I'm sure I've watched it a little bit since then, but not much. I mean, I've watched stuff with MJF in it, and now that he's not there right now, I really haven't watched it.
No, right? And yeah. So just the big thing to talk about, right? I guess Tony basically all but confirmed Sasha Banks, a.k.a. Mercedes Monet's future in AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? Wednesday night, he announced March 13th, Dynamite will be, I hate how he just does, comes up with these titles for random-ass Dynamites, but AEW Big Business Show. And do you know what that's
I don't have a problem with the naming the shows. NXT does the same thing. So if you have a problem with it with AEW, you have to have a problem with it for NXT.
No, I just hate Tony. So
I know that it's your bias is showing.
No, it's not biased if I'm right. So
it's still biased.
Nope, not biased. I'm right.
It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's still a bias.
Nah, I'm right. So you know where that Spot Fest is going to be occurring?
TD Garden,
which is Sasha's hometown, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Boston.
Mercedes Monet's.
Yes, it is her hometown.
And Fightful confirmed our boy Sean Ross Sapp, which Sean, hit me up on Twitter. I still haven't got that foul. Let's go, big guy. Confirmed that she's basically been on the payroll since early January. Talks with WWE fell apart sometime in December. Then both sides, her and AEW, got back to the negotiation table from the end of December to that point in January and worked it out. How much do you think she was asking for? That's the question. I'm like... And do you think the bad blood's still there from how she left? It can't be, right? Because they brought Trinity back. Because it just doesn't... This seems like there's some external factor that stopped her from getting back to WWE. It just... You know what I mean? It just doesn't... I don't know. It feels like this was more than a payroll discussion, right? It feels like... Because, we've heard prior to when she basically left for good, she was impossible to deal with backstage. So it's like... But then again, we heard the same thing about Phil Brooks. Right? So it's like...
Yeah.
But do you think this breaks down to the whole, premise of be who you can afford to be? And she probably pushed WWE a little bit too far, and they're like, we're not paying you that?
I mean, it's possible, right? Like, I'm sure Tony probably feels the need to sign her.
He
He's
has to,
probably
right?
wanted to for quite some time. Well, and he's wanted to for quite some time, right? Because he,
He showed her at a pay-per-view
right, and
when she had the
he
ankle injury.
he really couldn't. Well, not that he couldn't, but it really would have looked even worse if he did all that to show her and did all that and then didn't sign her and then she shows up at WWE. So yeah, he probably threw a ton of money at her.
I
I
was
mean, whatever.
thinking he probably, yeah, no, I just would like to see her return. With the fact of having Charlotte out, like, I thought this would greatly help. You know what I mean? But if they're going to continuously bring Jordan Grace in, I don't think it's that big of a loss for WWE. Um, Hitting on this now, I know you've been catching up on the last couple episodes of 83 Weeks with our buddy Eric. If Sasha comes out there on Wednesday, March 13th, and starts shooting on the WWE, do you think that's a good way for her to go?
No, not at this point.
No, I don't think so either. But I have a feeling that Tony's probably nudging her, like, hey, if you want to say something about creative over there or the people that are in charge, feel free to hop on over there and say what you got to say. You know what I mean? Because it gives the green light to everybody. Um, but I just don't think it does anything for her character. I don't think it adds anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't
Right.
think it brings anything to the table. Because I feel like if she does that, it'll be a small pop that night, and then by Saturday, nobody will care that she's actually there. Especially with the run that WWE is on right now. I don't think that does anything. I don't think it does anything. So, um, but yeah, so that's one of the updates. I think the only other big update that they have was Stinger finally got gold, huh?
Yeah, which Sean reports he didn't want, but they pushed it,
Yeah.
which also means he's likely to lose his last match
Uh,
to the Young Bucks, right? Like, because they're holding the titles. He's not going to retire unless he retires and vacates a title, or they give Darby um, a different partner. Which I don't know. They didn't do it with.
who do you even put with Darby?
I don't know that you do. I think they just lose. And whatever.
Yeah, it's strange, right? Like, I don't know. I didn't like Big Bill and Starks as a tag team, anyways. So, and I like the Young Bucks even less. Um, I mean, I don't. It's just like to go against Sting's like wishes on his way out the door makes no sense to me. Makes no sense to me. Um, yeah, it's weird, right? It's
Allegedly, they pushed it. I mean, based on the reporting, because those two are basically undefeated as a tag team. So,
who's
like, it doesn't make it
Sting and
Sting
Darby.
and
Yeah,
Darby. Yeah.
yeah. So there was a question I've been wanting to ask you. How far of a fall from grace do you think Darby has when Sting's not around anymore? I know
I I don't
Darby's
think
due
much
to.
at all.
I know Darby's due to take some time off, right? Because he's going to Everest.
Right.
But like, I got a feeling though.
I don't think he falls off much at all, to be honest.
I don't know.
I think he's a unique enough talent that he'll be fine.
Yeah. I guess as long as he could stay healthy, right? Like, especially like
Oh
the way
yeah.
he goes. Because like you got to think how many times does Sting have a conversation conversation with them afterwards saying, "Hey, that was good, but let's kind of still be able to walk tomorrow." You know what I mean? Like that type of big
Yeah.
brother type conversation, because there's not going to be anybody there then for him. Um, it'll be interesting. I hope he doesn't fall too far. I'm a big fan of him. Um, I'm happy he kind of got a title. I didn't see that report about Sting, which kind of makes me kind of irritated, because if you're really letting Sting go out the way he wanted to go out, why not just go with Sting's wishes? I guess I don't know, but then again, that's AEW for you. Um, and then there was one more thing I wanted to talk about with AEW, but now I forgot. Shoot. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been a busy week in wrestling, right? Like it's
Been
been
a crazy like week and a half, and like it did exactly what they wanted it to do. They're probably going to pull in crazy ratings for this random kickoff event that they scheduled on a Thursday night, and they just doubled the amount of energy for Cody finishing his story. But think about it, like it's interesting to try to find, like, and I don't know what you think, but I mean, we heard stories that they were reprogramming the video game because of this.
so. I'm
So,
starting.
like, what's true?
So I'm
You know?
starting to wonder if when they say reprogramming, if they meant just all the cover artwork that they had to do with for Brock. I think I'm starting to wonder if they mean reprogramming all the advertisement stuff. Because it's due out in
Maybe.
what? 3 weeks? 3.5 weeks? 4 weeks?
I think. I think. I don't know. I'm going to be pre-ordering it next paycheck. So.
Jesus Christ, we have no life. Um, I'll probably be
Well,
there too.
thank God MLB The Show is on Game Pass because I'm
Yeah, for
pre-ordering.
you, I'm buying it. I'm buying double, bud.
Well, that's your problem.
I know. I know. I really got to find hobbies.
Well, at least, like you said, the gameplay is free on Xbox. It's just
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
really like the deluxe PS5 version.
Yeah, I just want the hat. That's all it comes down to. But yeah, I mean, just think about it. You could have Rock, Seth, Cody, Roman, and then night 2 have the winners of night 1 wrestle to unify the belts.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
just
you're kind of screwing the women here as far as like the main event stuff, but yeah, like
yeah, right. Like, so it depends if they like actually promise the women's division that, right? Like, promise them to be on.
well, it's just gonna be co-main events. They're gonna call them co-main events,
Yeah,
right?
and I'm completely okay with that. If you're one of the
I mean, UFC does it all the time. It's just a thing.
yeah, but if you're
We've
one of
just
those
become
dirt
used
cheap
to it.
followers that are gonna comment, "There's no such thing as co-main events," how about you go upstairs and take a shower for once in your life? How about that, bud? Because I'm tired of seeing that crap all over Twitter too. It's like, get real. Like, no, nobody cares. Just get real. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting, right? Like, it'll be.
It's
I don't.
great.
I don't know. There's so much that you could do, right? Like, there's so much.
Yeah.
So
They
much.
they have endless opportunities, and they whether or not, maybe we'll never know. We probably will never truly know, but whether or not this is a reaction to having the most disliked video ever in their history on YouTube,
Good point.
having the booing and the Rocky sucks chants, like, which, in what world did we think we were going to get Rocky sucks chants? Like,
Yeah. When?
right?
When? When?
Like people have been clamoring for him to come back for this exact match, and then it happens. Of course, the timing is terrible, and the fans, in the majority of the fans' opinion, and they actually turn on him. Like, that was not on my bingo card, right? Like, I didn't like it when they seemingly did it for a lot of reasons, which was one, like the way they told that story leading up to tonight was like, why did you have Cody point at Roman if literally 2 nights later or whatever, a week later, you were gonna have him come out and say, I'm coming for you, but not at WrestleMania.
Right.
Like I was just pointing at you.
So who
And then
cares? Right.
right. And then but then again, like, and you look at it, like everybody was focused on what did Cody's face look like when Rock came into the ring, and then they had that moment where they chatted secretly, right, like in the ring, and Cody just looked dejected, and everybody, and then now I'm sitting there going like, this was the best swerve ever, right? Well, maybe not ever, but you know what I mean, like, because they literally got you so worked up, and so everybody felt so bad for Cody, and like real life anger over creative, just to flip it back a week later or a week and a half later, and all is well again, and you've added all these options of what you can do. And The Rock turned heel. Like, where did that, like, that? I just did not see that coming at all. Um, I sort of wondered if they would flip it back to Cody Roman, but I did not think they would make Rock go heel in the process.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
That feels like that might be a Rock Bryan call, right? Like,
Yo,
let's use
that's
this,
Brian.
right?
That's Brian 100%. That is Brian
Right.
100%. There's Brian. Yeah, for sure. Just to build off that, Rock's quote from the Pat McAfee show today. Did you read this, Dan?
No.
Here we go. The Rock says, those Cody crybabies, the ones for every 10 tweets, they're shoving a chicken McNugget in their mouth. Every 20 treats, they're shoving 2 McNuggets up their ass. All you gotta do is sit back, know your role, shut your mouth, and enjoy the ride that The Rock is gonna take your candy asses on. So hashtag that, hashtag shut your bitch's ass up. Hashtag Cody Crybabies, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
also, do you think FanDuel, if Rock does start shooting promos on Roman, how many episodes of Raw or SmackDown before The Rock comes out there and starts calling Roman the tribal queef? How?
Okay, that'll
How?
never happen.
I
That will
think
not
so.
happen.
I think so. It's coming. It's coming.
No, it won't.
It's coming. Just think
They will
about all
not-
the.
They will not drop that on cable television. Like, if you're lucky, you get that at a pay-per-view. But they bleeped out a ton of crap tonight
That's what I
on
mean.
Peacock.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, what if Rock says it
No.
for everybody there, but they bleep it out?
Yeah, but then you won't know.
Oh, we'll
Like,
know.
what-
YouTube.
What
we'll
good
know.
is it if you didn't hear it? Like,
We'll know.
you know?
Man, Brian, hit me up, bud. I got all types of lines you can use.
Oh my god.
So what?
That's just not gonna happen.
It'd
I'd
be-
be willing to bet like a week's pay on that. That's not gonna happen.
Well, you need to make sure somebody else gets paid before you start betting off your pay there, bud.
It's not my problem.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I know I hate that we keep getting the
Also,
end of every episode and we say like this feels like the golden age, but Jesus,
yeah, but
like
it's true.
every week it's better and better, right? Like every week there's
It's-
just something that just
It's
sparks.
the new goal. It's the
Yeah,
new golden age.
just sparks something else, and we're just flying with it. But yeah, go on.
Also, what's to stop them from doing what they did with Rock and Cena and just setting WrestleMania 41 the day after WrestleMania 40 to be Rock Roman and spend a year of that?
Or Rock Cody.
Yeah, maybe, but I think Rock Roman is what the people will want once Cody Roman is gone.
Yeah, sure.
Is done.
So
And then
How do you
assuming
think
Cody
that
goes
goes?
over,
Well, how do you think that goes if Cody has the belt?
well, then it's just Rock and Roman for the bloodline, right? Like that's what it is, and you actually need the belt out of the picture, and then Cody is a working champion, right? Like he's going to be there every week. He's going to be on the
So
road, like you know.
the thing about Rock and Cena, and I know you've watched the documentary just as many times as I did. The big thing that drove it though was all the back and forth on Twitter. Do you think Roman could keep up like that? I don't
I
see
mean,
his character
I
doing
mean,
it.
maybe his character can't, but I'm sure somebody can do it for him.
I think Paul can if he puts Paul in front of it. Or since he's the mouthpiece of Roman, you could definitely see Rock and Paul taking shots at each other.
Well, and also like Roman could develop it, and it would just be Brian behind the scenes telling him what to tweet, like, right? Like they could just make Roman develop it, and if you're drawing it out over a year, like you did Rock and Cena, where you're not necessarily going to hear about it every week, but you're going to hear about it a couple of times, or once a month or twice a month maybe, and then there's just a lot of offline stuff that happens or non off show, I mean off air. You could do a lot with it, and Roman could play into if he's off. I don't know that he is, but if he's off shooting a movie, you could play into that stuff too. If Rock's not shooting a movie, right? Like, there's a lot you do. I mean, I'm just wondering what's to stop them from doing that if they're hell bent on this being a WrestleMania thing, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
agree. Like my only thing is though, so then is it so then do you have Punk and Randy immediately chase Cody? Randy first since he's healthy, Punk when Punk gets back? Or do you think Punk goes after whoever has Seth's title?
well, Punk's probably going to go after Drew. So if they're working to Drew to take Seth's title, that would make sense, right? Because they're keeping up the Drew and Punk thing.
Right.
Um, so it's probably Drew, although I'm not really sure how I feel about that because like Drew's a brick house and Punk's old and not a brick house, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I
you know,
could
like
believe it more beforehand before Punk got hurt, but Punk got hurt again. Like, you know
I
what I
didn't
mean?
even believe it. I don't even believe it as much before this recent injury. It's just too. I mean, I don't know. It's just a weird matchup to me, but it looks like what they're probably doing. And since it seems like Punk isn't necessarily going anywhere, they're going to have plenty of time to build to whatever Punk is doing in the future. Because it sounds like he's going to be around and he's going to be talking still.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, if that rumor is true and they put him on as commentary, I don't hate that.
no, and it doesn't even have to be all the time. It could just be special guests, right? Like show up every once in a while, be it some big moments, be it, I would like, or I would be willing to bet that he's going to be pre-show panel for WrestleMania now. You know, um, they'll probably get him on, the bump if that's still even going. Those kinds of shows.
It is,
Um,
Dan. It is.
I thought they were getting rid of that show.
I don't know because so it's weird, right? So, um, I was listening to Sam Roberts' show today earlier, and he said he was off shooting for a new WWE show. So I'm not sure what they're doing or if they're just incorporating something else on the bump. The bump gets tons of viewers, like a ton.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Um, well, I wonder if was he talking about this new Twitter show they're doing? It sounds like
right,
it sounds like from what I see, like it's literally like the whole point of it is that you only have 5 minutes to finish the match. Like it's almost like an old school TV title where like if there's no winner by the end of it, the winner is just the champion or or it's going to be a draw, basically. Um, and they'll be, according to this, the new concept will feature matches that last 5 minutes or less and will be aired live to tape.
I don't.
Bunch of, I'm sure a bunch of like dark matches get shown as WWE speed, right? Like,
Oh, for sure, for sure. They have to, right? Like
right.
they have to.
That'd be interesting. Interesting for sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So yeah, I mean it's a crazy week, right? Like I know
Yeah.
we said that a dozen times, but like it hasn't been like this for a while, for years now. And then for this to just pick up all of a sudden, like I don't know. I guess the big thing that I would tell you is just like just let it play out like we've been. Let it play out, enjoy it because there's going to be some downtime in the future because everyone that's getting old, transitioning the talent up, like there's going to be a time that we're going to look back on this and say, remember when this actually happened?" So, yeah, I mean, that's all I had for this episode. Dan, did you have anything else? You want to discuss anything else? You want to tell us any Vince McMahon stories that he invited you to the back on? Or anything like that, big guy? No? All right. Well, this was episode
One of
19.
those.
Dan, we all know. This was episode 19, Botch Wrestling Podcast. I'm Jim.
I have
That's Dan.
0 NDAs.
Yeah. Technically, by law, so does Vince right now. um, Good news is I'm back on Twitter. Got allowed back on Twitter. My personal email got allowed back on Twitter. So,
Well, what's the over under on when you get shut down again?
oh, I was already trying to talk to Tucker on my way home. So, that's going to be soon. So, yeah, that's all we had. Enjoy it, please. Like we've been preaching. Let this play out. They have 8 weeks, one pay per view. Just enjoy what's going on. I know it's easy to get caught up on everything that's going on, but just enjoy this. And we will be back
Well,
with
yeah,
what?
yeah. And well, I was gonna say, and like, don't get too caught up. If you don't
Yeah,
like it, that's just as good as liking
yes,
it.
that's the
Because
whole point, right?
if
That's,
we've learned anything in the last 2 weeks, is that they will, whether they planned it or not, they will stop on a dime and change the story if they think it makes sense. So
yeah,
you just gotta wait it out. And
agreed.
I'm like the biggest flip flopper in the history of wrestling podcasts
Oh,
because
yeah, you
now
are.
it's like because now 100% globally, and we still have 2 months to go. But if this is where the final stretch, then I am back to being okay with Cody losing last year,
It's insane, right? Like, it's like
right?
they've been toying with us for so long,
They
and we've
right
been
they
falling for
they have taken
everything.
us on right they have taken us on a roller coaster since last year's WrestleMania, and all those people that were so mad that he didn't win then are going to be twice as happy when he wins this year.
Correct.
And they won't want to admit it, but they enjoyed the ride more, than they might want to admit. So, but I lost my patience too, so I'm one of them,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Like,
it's like, yeah, like we said, like we've been falling for it too. Don't get caught up in it. Just enjoy this new golden age of wrestling. Just enjoy the young talent we have on Tuesdays with NXT. Just enjoy that The Rock is back and back as a possible heel, like which is
I
insane.
don't
Just
think
to
it's possible.
no, but I'm
I don't
just
think.
like just
I
if there's
mean,
any flip flopping
yeah,
that occurs, just enjoy the fact that we have Randy Orton back and completely healed to where the point he looks like a superhero again. Like this is insane. Like it's just and just enjoy the fact we have Punk back and Punk might even be on commentary for Mania, which is insane to think of.
right.
Insane to think of.
Yep.
So please just enjoy this and we'll be back next week with episode 20 of a Botch Wrestling podcast. Jesus, we're getting old. That's a lot of episodes.
I've been old.
Yeah, you have been. All right. So see y'all next week. Adios.